So you already talked about the stress training. Training and stress drills are a big thing in the program, a big part in the program. Could you please explain more about the stress training we use, how you set it up and stuff like that?
I think the stress drills are the most important part of the training program, because I didn't understand it myself until I started training with Chris Thomas, and he started putting me through the stress drills. And it still took me a while then to understand and realize in all training. So in the Marine Corps, you do stress drills. All of Marine Corps boot camp and all your training is stress, because there's guys yelling and screaming at you and throwing shit at you the entire time, you know? So, but it's for you to be able to function under stress. So, and I thought about that, you know, at 17, I'm breaking down my M16 rifle, but you have to break it down. You got to be able to do it closed, eyes closed. You got to be able to do it in the dark, break it down and put it back together completely, right? But not only are you breaking the weapon down, but there's one or two drill instructors just screaming, yelling at you while you're doing the whole thing, and they're throwing stuff around, and you know. But with all of that stress going on, you have to maintain still some sort of fine motor skills and be able to think, right? So then it works the same as in the police world. So in the police world, going through the academy, they put the guy in the big red man suit, you know, and you're exhausted and tired, and you're trying to get the techniques done. You're under stress, you're exhausted, so your fine motor skills start to disappear, you know, and then that shows like how when you're drawing your weapon, how, you know, sometimes your fingers don't even work, and you have to think through these processes. In SWAT training, same thing. You start off slow, steady, and you remain slow and steady the entire time, because slow and steady then eventually equals speed. So if you look in all of these different aspects of it, they all have stress training. In the martial arts, I didn't quite understand that, because like growing up, we would spar and we'd fight, you know, and do whatever. My training has always been more of a mixed martial arts style with all my instructors before there was even a quote-unquote mixed martial arts or UFC. It's how we just always train. Then Chris Thomas then showing me the stress drills in our basic techniques that we were doing. Those stress drills then, so we can practice all day long, an arm comes and hitting that arm and cracking somebody on stomach 5 or conception 24. You can practice that all day long, but just nice and slow is one thing. But then that's where you have to keep amping up the tension and the stress, the tension and the stress, and then taking it from where you're standing there static and they're just grabbing you to eventually your eyes are closed, or you got glasses on that got something smeared so you can't quite see, your lights are on or off, and you know, sometimes we use a strobe light that's flashing, and they're grabbing you, and you still have to be able to hit that underneath that stress and hit the right spot and be able to continue through. That stress training alone, I can guarantee, has saved my life on at least 5 occasions. Because if I didn't have that stress training, there's been multiple situations that I've been in my police work that I probably wouldn't have survived. And the stress training is what allowed me to be able to function, to think, and maintain my thought process and some of my fine motor skills. Even, you know, one fight I was in took 4.5 minutes. 4.5 minutes from start to finish by the time I got the guy in handcuffs, and he was high on PCP. So I broke these 3 fingers on him, I broke his wrist, and I ripped his elbow out. Didn't do anything to him. Didn't bother him at all. And but it was being able to still have my body mechanics and being able to move him and transition through. Eventually I had to, it's a bad word now, but eventually I had to choke him out in order to get the handcuffs on, you know. But it was 4.5 minutes. That's long. After 4.5 minutes rolling through the freaking woods, I was exhausted. I couldn't hear. I looked like I was looking out of you know, the size of a straw, you know, and all my guys are trying to find me, but we're in the woods. Nobody can find us, you know. And but it was because of the stress training, especially on that one, that allowed me to maintain and still be able to do the Tuite techniques and move the guy, you know. It just, PCP doesn't allow you to feel anything from your waist up. So all the Tuite, they still, they did what they were supposed to as damaging, but they didn't make him move. That's for sure. But the stress drills are the most important thing that we do, and I start those off. Even my kids, my 5-year-olds, they start stress drills. So my personal sons, right, they've all done it since they were little bitty kids, and now when they go in there and they have people attacking them, it's the version of what I want to see. They're smiling and laughing, and they're attacking, and they're doing their arm bars, or they're doing their throws, or whatever it is, but they're smiling during the whole process, right? And that's what I want. When you're underneath stress, you have to relax, smile, breathe, and be able to talk to that guy. And that's what those drills are designed to do. And it makes anything that you're learning self-defense wise, then it proves whether it's going to work or not when you're under stress, right? Because then the attackers are all wearing different levels of gear too. So you might have a guy who's a non-responder because he's wearing all of this stuff. So now your beautiful pressure point technique isn't working. So now you got to rely on your mechanics and your Tuite and being able to move that guy, right? So that's the different versions of it and how to troubleshoot. You hit this guy, shit, he didn't pass out. That did. What do I do now? Most people that I know, they would do this, and the guy would sit there and look at him. They wouldn't do anything. They end up getting punched back in the face, you know? Well, and that's another thing. You have to be able to take that punch in the face. That's what that training does, right? It sits you up there, and maybe I get sucker punched in the face, and that's what starts the stress drill. But if I get punched in the face, and I crumple down on the ground and just start crying, you know, all my black belts and all that stuff don't quite work, right? So I got to be able to take that shot and then come back at the guy to be able to, you know, fight. At the end of the day, you're going to get hit, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get beat up, you're going to get freaking stabbed, you're going to get freaking bit, you're going to get, you know, all those things are going to happen. You just have to be able to learn how to fight through it, and that's what the stress drills are. And then the team around yelling at the guy and building him up and, you know, giving him that encouragement. Because I'll tell you, in some of those situations, hearing those guys in the back of my head, those are the things that have helped me continue fighting, so I didn't wind up dead in the woods myself. You know, you hear those guys in the background. So the stress training is the most important part of the training program, because it puts everything you just learned to the test and see what happens, you know.
You already mentioned the word Tuite. Could you quick explain it and how important it is for us? Because Tuite is part, or mostly part of every level we are having in the Kyusho Combatives Program.
I think Tuite is the most important part to start with. So Tuite is grappling but with pressure points, right? Kyusho Jitsu is striking with pressure points. So the Kyusho, it's punches, elbows, knees, kicks, headbutts, whatever, on points. The Tuite is doing whatever grappling technique, but also learning it properly and using the right pressure point to make that technique work or make that joint weaker. Where my belief and how I was brought up training and how I continue to train people is, if you just learn pressure points and you're trying to reach out and punch and hit and get those points while you're moving, it's difficult because both parties are moving, right? They're going back and forth. So hitting that moving target at first is very difficult. It's the same way your first day, you know, you come over here to the States and I take you shooting all the time, right? You guys don't get to play with weapons over here. So you just shot with my AR and my 22s and all my pistols, right? But I'm teaching you how to draw that weapon out, how to look at it, right? If your first day I had targets that flipped or just went across, you'd be like, right? You'd be all over the place. You couldn't hit them. To me, that's the same as doing Kyusho right off the bat. Tuite allows you to find the points and get to it, right? That's why I can reach out and lock this on right off the bat. I don't have to sit there and look at it, right? I know where it is.
Right.
This comes to and covers your wrist joint, and this drops right in. So it's by doing those mechanics over and over and over again in the Tuite portion of it, where I can lock in and feel, and then hit this one and feel when I turn and I move. Your body gets tuned in to where those points are, right? Then you're also learning the mechanics behind it. And again, slow, with no tension, no strength, and you build it up. Add a little tension, add a little strength, add a little stress, and you just keep building it up to where you're doing those movements. When now you got used to practicing on hitting the point, or grabbing the points and manipulating the points while we're moving and head to toe, your body's more in tune to where that point is. So now, when the target is sitting up there and they grab you and you go to hit, maybe they move, whatever it is, you're more in tune to where those points are, and you're able to, in my opinion, you're able to hit the point on a moving target now, when the guy's trying to move around. Because maybe I start off and we start doing something and my technique, it slips, you're sweaty, your hand slips out, and now we're back to this. Well, now I have to be able to bridge that gap, close the gap, control that combative space to come in to get to it. If I'm just swinging wildly, maybe I hit you, maybe I don't, right? But if I can position and I got that target over there, you're more apt to hit the points. But also, Tuite is the more gentler version of it, right? You can grab, say it's just a good friend of yours that's, had too much to drink and he's causing problems or whatever, right? You don't go and knock that guy out, right? You get a hold of his finger, get a hold of his wrist. Come here, buddy. Let's go. There's nothing they can do to stop that stuff, and it positions them in there. In police work, right? I can't just walk up and punch somebody, right? I have to be able to talk to them. I have to be able to maneuver them. I have to be able to get them out of the situation. Sometimes it's with a grappling or Tuite technique to get them to move. So Tuite, in my opinion, is what you use more. Same in police work, right? We have our pistol. We have our pistols. That's what we train with, right? The pistol comes out on that's the last step. Last level is the pistol. My opinion, Kyusho is close to that. It's about that last level. There's a lot I can get done in a self-defense situation using my mind, my mouth, my presence, my body language, how I position, and Tuite. I can use all that before even hands have to come on. And then my first step is going to be Tuite, right? It matches those levels. And then you can control somebody with that. Then if you have to use the pressure point, use the knockout, then you use the knockout. But Tuite to me that's the foundation. That's the most important aspect of it.
Okay, thank you. So to end that midsection of the interview, I have one last question for you. What is the goal of the Kyusho Combatives Program then?
Just to make people really truly be able to defend themselves. There's a lot of programs out there that teach different things, and there's a lot of I don't even know how many martial arts styles there are anymore, right? There's just millions of them. But people get that they get a false sense of security the higher their belt level goes up, right? I've got a high belt level, but trust me, the way that I think, and because of the job that I do, that belt level doesn't mean anything, right? I can still turn this corner and get punched in the face by a 16-year-old kid and knock flat freaking out if I'm not prepared for it, not looking at it, right? So your belt level has nothing to do with skill level, in my opinion. The two things eventually they kind of go together. What we want in our program is, I don't want assholes, right? I want good people. So the way I was brought up, and then joining the Marine Corps and becoming a police officer now, the thought process is we defend ourselves, but we also defend those who can't defend themselves, right? people who don't have the voice and they can't protect themselves, it's our job to step in and protect them. It's the same thing in my Kyusho Combatives Program. Is I don't want, nobody's a bully, nobody's walking around with a big old head. You know, you see us at seminars, we all laugh and joke and have a good time. We're all hugging on each other. But I guarantee everybody that I have, that I've, like yourself and all those guys that have trained with us and are ranked with us, we can all laugh and joke and be having a great time. And the second somebody comes in trying to do something, that switch will be flipped and we'll address the situation, right? So the program is designed to make people truly be able to defend themselves and have that confidence about it. But we don't walk around, you know, cocky.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Wally J said there's a difference between cocky and cocksure. Cocky is you're more like an asshole. You're just running around and kind of running your mouth, but you don't have anything to back it up. Cocksure is you're not running your mouth or whatever, but you just carry yourself in a different way because, you know, you have the ability to back it up, right? You've seen me at situations or whatever. I don't run my mouth. I don't talk. I don't sit there and do things. I quietly observe, you know, and then it's another one of the Marine Corps mottos or thought processes is smile and shake everybody's hand, but have a plan to kill every person in a room. And that's exactly what it is. I don't want jerks. I don't want bullies. We have good, solid people in our program. That's who I want to attract, and that's who I want in. And if there's somebody that has a, you know, that has a background or ulterior motive or just wants to go and hurt somebody, they weed themselves out in the process, because that's, again, part of what the levels are for, is the good people come through, people with good hearts and good moral character, they come through, and the other ones I end up having to have a conversation with and tell them to beat it, you know? So the program is designed for that, to create a good family community that can defend itself and, you know, just have fun.
Yeah.